Hi, I am Cassie, the English teacher, and this is my series about moving to and living in Uruguay. This video is one I have had requested so many times, and it is about food prices and food availability here in Uruguay. I understand why I get this question so much because when I was researching about Uruguay from the United States, I remember that every blog, every website, every Facebook group for expats or immigrants kept talking about how expensive the food is here. Now, I hate subjective terms like expensive or cheap or ugly, beautiful, tasty, bland. Those are really difficult because they're so subjective person to person. So my goal with this video is to give you an objective idea of what food costs here. You also have to keep in mind that many times when you're talking to immigrants or expats, if they left the US 10 years ago and they're providing food, they're comparing food prices here in Uruguay to the food prices they remember from 10 years ago in the US. Well, we know that inflation has happened all over the globe and food prices are higher everywhere. So just try to find objective measurements, and I hope that this video is going to be full of objective data for you. So in order to do that, I'm going to break it down into a few parts. First, I'm going to talk about all of the different places you can go to get food. So just like in the US, if you said, how expensive is food? I would have to say, well, depends. Are you going to Aldi or Whole Foods? Right? Those are going to be totally different scales. Same thing here. You can go to the fanciest place and pay a lot more, and you can go other places and pay less. And so I'm going to break those down one by one for you. The second part of the video, I am extremely lucky that one of my very dear friends owns an Almacén, which is kind of like I think a bodega in New York City. And she allowed me to go in after hours and slowly pan across all of her shelves so that you can see exactly what is available and how much it costs in a very, very typical neighborhood grocery store. So I think that gives you like a good baseline of, I know I can find, if it's in this small little bodega, I can find it anywhere, right? Okay, so third, I'm going to actually break down two different meals that I pretty regularly cook for my family of 4. And I'm going to give you the prices of all of the ingredients and then like a cost per meal and a cost per person. Because again, I think that's something that if you are a parent and you're cooking for a family and you're trying to make a budget, those numbers are going to help you create your budget much, much better. Then after that, I'm going to talk about food availability. So what you can find here and what you can't. We are coming up in the world, like we are getting more and more and more foreign items available for purchase here, but there are still some things that are really difficult to find and some things you can't find at all. So I'm going to go through some of the things that are like the most requested items that I see in the Facebook groups and like talking to people moving here one-on-one. Okay, so let's begin. So the most expensive way to buy food is going to be just like in the US, right? We have something here called pedidos ya. Pedidos ya is like DoorDash. Pedidos is orders, like, so it's kind of like orders up. I can order through Pedidos Ya and have my food delivered to my doorstep. Obviously, that is the most expensive option. I've only ever used it when I was on crutches because I hurt my ankle and I couldn't really get out and go out very much. That's going to be the most expensive by far. But it is available, and I know a lot of people in the US use food delivery, so I want to make sure that you know that's also available here. Don't worry. Number 2, the big fancy grocery stores. So this is going to be Tienda Inglesa, Devoto Fresh Market, Disco, places like that. These stores are, it feels like you're walking into like a Whole Foods. They're very nice. They have huge bakery sections. They have huge sections of prepared food. They'll often have like a salad bar or like a food bar like Whole Foods has, where you can go in and pay per weight and get food. They'll have the most selection there. It's a big giant store, similar to what you're used to in the US. They'll have the variety there. If you're going to find like certain Mexican hot sauce or something like that, that's probably where you're likely to find it. Now, this is the most expensive. After Pedidos Ya, after getting it delivered, this is going to be your most expensive option. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare the cost of eggs to compare these different things. So eggs at Tienda Inglesa are 199 pesos for 12 eggs, is what I found online today. So that's going to be 16.6 pesos per egg, which translates to about 45 cents in the US. Okay, like 199 pesos is about $5 in the US. So the next level down, and not down, it's just different, but like cheaper, is going to be, there are neighborhood stores, but that are still corporate. So these are going to include Frog, Tata, and Devoto. And then there are some other ones in different parts of the city and certainly in different parts of the country. But I live in Montevideo. I'm talking about where I live. It's Frog, Tata, or Devoto. These are going to be like a smaller version of the big, nice grocery store. So if you think like a grocery store that would be in a small town in the US, so a much more limited selection, but still like a corporate grocery store with like reward points and everything like that. This is going to be cheaper than Tienda Inglesa and Disco, but not by like a whole lot. So for example, eggs, when I looked online at Devoto for eggs, it's $1.99 for 15 eggs. So 13.3 pesos per egg, which is 32 cents per egg. So cheaper than 45 cents per egg, but still higher than what we're going to get to. These are like a great, like everyday store. The next one is the neighborhood Almacén. So like I said, my friend owns one. These are like a bodega in New York. These are mom and pop shops. Like they are not corporate. They are owned by an individual. They are kind of very random in what you're going to find. Like you just kind of never know. I mean, you'll know your neighborhood Almacén, you'll get to know it. But some of them have like a pretty good selection of fruits and vegetables, like mine does. And some of them have hardly any fruits and vegetables. You know, it just kind of depends store to store. I'm going to do the scan of my neighborhood store later in the video. What I really like about these stores is they're more personable, okay? Because the person behind the counter usually owns the store or is related to whoever owns the store. So if you are, especially when you first arrive here, you need a lot of help. Like you have to be able to ask for help. And there's going to be so many questions that you have. And if you build a relationship, even if it's just a relationship of, I come in this store every day and I talk, we chit chat a little bit. They know I'm from abroad. I ask them like where to find, where can I buy certain things. That's going to be so beneficial to you. It just really is going to help. Like my friend, like we're now really close friends, But like even right off the bat, she would be like, "Oh, hey, by the way, tomorrow is such and such holiday and there's not going to be any buses running. Just FYI, I know you guys ride the bus, da da da." Like she would preemptively let me know, "Hey, I know you're not from here, so you may not know tomorrow's a holiday." Or, "Oh, there's not going to be school tomorrow because there's a strike." Things like that. She would just kind of make sure I knew. And that was like infinitely helpful. So that's like a huge benefit to these neighborhood shops. So in my case, like I have this Almacén, and then a block away is a Devoto. And sometimes things are cheaper in the Devoto. But the way I feel is if my friend sells it, I'm buying it from her only. I will go, if she's run out or if it's not in her store, I'll go down to Devoto. But if she sells it, I'm buying it from her, because the loyalty is there because we have the relationship. So that's my little spiel about the neighborhood almacenes. Please support them because I don't want it to be like the US where we don't have mom and pop shops anymore. It's so, so, so nice to have those. So at her store, eggs are about 350 pesos for a flat of 30. So that's about 11.7 pesos per egg, which is 27 cents per egg. So cheaper than Devoto, much cheaper than the fanciest stores. She also has like some fresh bread that's delivered every day that is a really good price. Like they call it pan flauta. It's kind of like a baguette, that is 45 pesos, so like about $1. So they have, because they're mom and pop, they'll have like some things that won't be in the corporate grocery stores, if that makes sense. Okay, and then the final level is the neighborhood feria. So a feria is like a street market. Here in Montevideo, generally every neighborhood has a feria one day per week. So what I would just recommend, I don't know where you find them online. Maybe it exists. I've never seen it. Wherever you're staying, just go ask at the Almacén, "Hey, is there a feria and when is it?" And they will tell you. They'll tell you exactly where it is and what day. So you can go that day, and that is going to be the cheapest food you can get by far. You will get fresh fruits and vegetables for the very cheapest amount. They also have like one of my favorite is there's the queso bus. So it's like a bus converted into a cheese store. And you're going to get much cheaper cheese there than you would get at the grocery store. There's a fish truck. There's a butcher, a chicken truck. Any food you need, you're going to be able to get there. There's even a truck that has a bus that's been converted and sells like all of the like toilet paper, shampoo, cleaning supplies, things like that. So you can literally get anything you need at the feria, and it will be the cheapest price you can find. So for example, that flat of 30 eggs that would be 350 pesos at my friend's Almacén is probably going to be 270 to 290 pesos at the feria. So even more cheap. So that's about 9 pesos per egg, which is 21 cents per egg. And the eggs here are nice because they are really fresh. They aren't washed. They come straight from the farm. So that is kind of a fun thing when you're from the US to see the eggs sitting out. I know they do that everywhere in the world, but it is kind of cool. To give you an idea of like a typical grocery haul, this changes over time. So this one that I'm going to provide, I bought in the summer. So it's a lot of summer vegetables. Right now it's the winter here. So if I went this week, I would get more like pumpkins, squash, leeks, things like that. But this is from a summer haul. So I paid the equivalent of 14 United States dollars for 2 heads of lettuce, 4 cucumbers, 6 tomatoes, 5 oranges, 4 ears of corn, 4 zucchini, 6 onions, and 3 pounds of potatoes. Like, that's a lot of food. for $14. So, of course, like it's seasonal. If I went and I tried to buy cucumbers now, they'd be hella expensive, right? If I tried to buy tomatoes now, they would be available, but like a lower quality and they'd be expensive. But if you're buying seasonally, what's available and what's cheap, you can really, really, really stretch your budget. And they always have things like pumpkins, potatoes, like starchy filling foods that can really stretch your money. Another thing, other than the neighborhood feria, is also keeping in mind neighborhood carnicerias, like a meat market, and fruit and vegetable stands. Fruteria, I cannot, it's so hard for me to say. Verduraria? Sorry, I'm sorry. Those are also going to have cheaper fruits and vegetables and meat than you would get in a grocery store. So, for example, we go to our neighborhood carniceria. It is not corporate, it's a mom and pop shop, and they have a deal where you can get 2 kilos of ground beef for 550 pesos. So usually on my walk back from the feria, I stop, I get 2 kilos of ground beef, and that works out to about $3.50 per pound of ground beef. And they're making it there in shop. Like, it's super fresh, it's super good, super delicious. The beef here in Uruguay is just so amazing. You can Google about all of the rules and stuff that they have for beef. But I mean, $3.50 for a pound of ground beef is incredible in my opinion. So you can see how if you only go to the fanciest grocery store, you could spend a ton of money. Even if you go to the Almacén, but you buy like snacks from the US and like processed food, that's going to be more money. But if you go to the feria and you go to your neighborhood places and you buy things the cheapest you can get them, you can spend so much less. And even if you started comparing that to the US, you're going to find that your costs are way lower than the US. At least I have found that. I used to compare it to H-E-B in Texas, and it would be always lower here, if not like right about the same or lower. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the scan of my friend's Almacén. Again, so many thanks to her. Estoy muy agradecida. I'm super grateful for her and her family, and they're lovely. And I hope that this is helpful to you guys. So we're starting with the kind of snacks shelf, some crackers, some cookies, kind of like Oreos, and then crackers. And then here you can see giant bags of chips, and then all of your alternative milks. So if you are worried about finding soy milk or coconut milk, etc., it's here. These are like individual yogurts and puddings, larger yogurts, sodas. So I do like that they have this little tiny soda option. Juices, keeping in mind that here 40 pesos, I usually do 40 pesos is $1, just because math is easier on that. Here at the top you have like some cream cheese and Greek yogurt, more crackers. Really like crackers here. Crackers and cheese and deli meats are big here. Breadsticks as well. You can see there in the corner some jelly and jam, powdered milk, along with lots of different types of, instant coffee and tea. Again, Jell-O, those little packets to make gravy like we have in the US. They have those here too. They have the little Knorr packets where you can make soups or little pasta, like one person microwave pasta or soup dishes. So these are like a couple dollars per packet. Here is the pasta. So the pasta is, a couple dollars per bag. The pasta al huevo just means like made with eggs. And then you have some that's just with flour. And then, of course, you have whole wheat pasta. Here at the bottom, you have the tomato sauce, basically like a quart of tomato sauces. And then smaller versions and cans tomato. And these little envelopes here, extracto de tomate, is like tomato paste. You can see there some soy sauce, some Worcestershire sauce. They call it English sauce here, and hot sauce. This shelf has sugar and cornmeal and baking powder and lots and lots of different types of tea bags here at the top. Herbal tea and breakfast tea. You can see the bags of rice. So a kilogram bag of rice is about $2. Here's some cornmeal to make arepas, or I make cornbread. This is beef tallow. Beef tallow is widely available. Different kinds of flour, of course, and then oil. Sunflower seed oil is probably the most common, but they have corn and canola, and of course olive oil and different vinegars. This is the fiambres section, so you can ask for cuts of deli meat and cheese. They love hot dogs here. They're called panchos here. All kinds of olives, more breadsticks, gnocchi, ketchup, mustard, mayo, typically what you would need, right? Vinegar, cans of tuna, lots of tuna. Then lots of canned beans. So canned beans and canned corn and peas for $1. These are canned mushrooms mostly. They're a little bit more dried lentils and dried beans, a couple dollars. You can see they even have butter beans. That made me very happy as a Southern girly. Black beans. And then big giant cans of fruit. Here is their section of like toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, personal care supplies. Mosquitoes are common here, so there's mosquito spray, of course. This is all like deodorant and stuff. I will say, like, this is where it is more expensive here than in the U.S. Just personal care items like shampoo, conditioner, deodorant, razors, things like that are just more expensive. Like, these are pretty small bottles of shampoo and conditioner. And it's not just this store. They're expensive everywhere here. So be ready for that. Like, these are bars of soap for like $1.50 or more. And then you have like your just bathroom spray, dish soap, things like that. Here's your snacks section. So the snacks are very expensive. They're expensive in the U.S. too, though. You can sell alcohol in regular stores here. We don't have those stupid laws they have in the U.S. There's a liter of whiskey for about $19 US dollars. Then they have lots and lots of wine. They make great wine here. Don Pascual is like a very good wine. Here is their bakery items. Okay, so now let's talk about 2 recipes that I make for my family. The first one is tuco. So tuco is what they call like a pasta meat sauce here, like a meaty tomato-y pasta sauce. So like ragu or bolognese, whatever you call it. Here in Uruguay, it's tuco. So my ingredients for tuco, I have a kilogram of ground beef. When I make this, I tend to make a giant pot of it. So this really feeds my family for a couple of days, not just one meal. If you were only wanting to make one meal, you would probably use like a pound, which is half a kilo, more or less. But a kilogram of ground beef, a can of tomatoes, a carton of tomato sauce. So here it's like just a square carton of, I think it's like the 32-ounce carton of tomato sauce. One onion, lots of garlic. So I'm just kind of thinking like half a bulb of garlic, maybe. 2 carrots, a cup of wine, tomato paste, and the noodles. In this scenario, I'm giving you the noodles like the packaged noodles that I would buy at the Almacén, but I also live right next to a homemade pasta shop. So if I was being bougie or if I was like preparing this for other people, I might spend a couple more dollars to go get like fresh homemade pasta. The total for all of these ingredients is 620 pesos, which is about $14.76 in US dollars. So if my family ate this entire thing in one sitting, that would be $3.69 per person. I don't particularly put a lot of cheese, but you could also even add some Parmesan cheese. But my family doesn't really like it with tuco. It's already flavorful enough. Now, I usually we serve, half or a little more than half for the first meal. And then the next day, I'll go buy like elbow pasta and maybe a can of corn and another can of tomatoes and like make like a chili mac or a hamburger mac dish, or maybe just add some more tomato sauce to like make the sauce stretch a little bit longer and some more noodles. So actually, the cost per meal is probably way lower than this. But just so you have an idea, this will feed a lot of people for really cheap. Now, this is getting the things from a pretty cheap source. Like, so my ground beef is from the carniceria. All of these things are from the Almacén. I could probably get the vegetables cheaper at the feria, but they're not a huge part of it. So I just use the Almacén numbers. Another meal that I make pretty often is like a soup and salad kind of thing. This is like for lunch, especially like if we've all been sick or something and I'm trying to get some fresh vegetables into my family's bodies. So a favorite thing I like to make is potato leek soup. That's a really good thing to make right now because potatoes and leeks are on sale. It's winter here. So potatoes, leeks, 1 onion, some bouillon, vegetable broth bouillon, butter. This is not the entire stick of butter, but for what I use, the percentage of the stick that I use, I'm calculating it out to 30 pesos worth of butter, a bag of cream, and that's for the soup. And then the salad, I use lettuce. I only use about 1 head of lettuce because my son doesn't like salad, but you might need to. I buy the 45 peso pan flauta, which is like a baguette, and I cut it in half so like you can dip some fresh bread in the soup, and then I make the other half into croutons for the salad. Parmesan cheese, to grate over the salad and even the soup if you want. Now, the Caesar dressing is the most expensive part of this, and I normally will just do like a oil and vinegar dressing, like a vinaigrette, but I happened to make Caesar salad yesterday because my daughter wanted it. So this is like what I found, again, at the just neighborhood Devoto, not the big fancy store, just the neighborhood version. This bottle was 280 pesos. So that is about $7. And we used about a third of it. So I'm putting 100 pesos in for the cost calculations because I use like maybe a little more than a third of the bottle. And then I bought some pre-made nuggets, 12 pre-made nuggets, chicken nuggets. I like to do like meat-free days, but my family doesn't. So that is our compromise, is that I'll make a salad and they put nuggets and I don't. But these are like pre-prepared, like buy as you're walking into the store kind of thing. So this is the most expensive version. of that, but still 12 nuggets for 104 pesos. That's about $2.50. So the total for this meal is 680 pesos, which works out to about 16.91 USD. So about $4.05 per person. There were no leftovers on this one. Well, actually, there might have been a little bit leftover soup that I had the next morning for breakfast. But yeah, no salad is ever left over because my daughter's a salad fiend. So I hope that those two meals kind of give you a good idea of like a meat heavy, thick meal, and then like a vegetable, fresh food heavy meal. What you can do for a family of 4. Okay, so I hope that gave you a good idea of the food prices so that you can make kind of a mock-up budget for your family. Now we're going to talk about food availability because that's also a huge concern. And honestly, was kind of like our biggest gripe when we moved here was not being able to find some of the foods. I'm saying gripe like we love it here. Clearly, if you watch any of my videos, you know that I love living here in Uruguay. And if I can't find some of my favorite things, that's a small price to pay to live in such a wonderful country. But just so you know, so you can come here being fully aware of what you can find and what you can't. The number one thing people ask about is peanut butter. So I have this. This is also from the just neighborhood Devoto store across the street. This was 170 pesos for 305 grams. So when I did the cost comparison with HEB, this is like about double the price because you could get double the amount for about the same price because 170 pesos is about $4.25 USD. So it is not cheap. It is not like in the US we use it as a cheap ingredient to, feed a bunch of kids, right? That's not what you're going to use it for here. But it is definitely available. It exists. Nutella exists too, but same thing. It's very, very expensive. It's going to be about double what you would pay in the US for it. Spices are kind of tricky because you can actually find most spices. There are some big stores that sell a bunch of spices specifically. What I have found actually, and I had my husband went to Mumbai recently and he brought me back like a mortar and pestle because I find a lot of spices whole, and I think that a lot of times you can make whatever the seasoning mix that you're trying to make, you can make it yourself if you can find the whole spices. So I'm really excited for that because it's like I like to make some like Arabic food. It's pretty easy to make Arabic 7 spice if you have the different spices and you just grind them up. And then it's also going to be fresher and delicious. You can find cloves, you can find cardamom, you can find coriander, you can find all of those kinds of things here. Turmeric, paprika, like basically all of your basics you're going to be able to find here pretty easy. What you can't find here as much is like really specialty things. So my biggest thing that, I mean, my life would be complete if somebody would import ancho chiles into Uruguay. Like that's the dried Mexican chiles that you used to make like pozole and birria and things like that. Those I have looked for 2 years. I cannot find them anywhere. Stuff like that are really, really niche. They're hard to find. I have found jalapenos, habaneros. I even found serrano the other day. Just a couple, but like I was like, oh, I found them. So you can find things. Sometimes it's a bit of an adventure to like find a niche item, but you probably can find it. Asian condiments and spices are also less available, but there is a big store that sells a lot of them. It's like right off of 18th. Like it's a huge store. It's going to be way more expensive, right, than you would probably get at like H Mart. But you can get things there. But like I have a friend who lived in Korea and he's been looking for some very, very specific Korean things that just he has not been able to find. So once again, If it's kind of like a basic thing that's pretty commonly used, you'll be able to find it. If it's a niche item, probably not. But it's changing every day. We're getting more and more imports every day. So, like, since we've been here, they've started selling Takis, which was my kids' like dream come true. They were like, we can live here forever now because now we have Takis. Um, Herbs are hit and miss. Basil is almost always available. Parsley is almost always available. Dried like thyme and oregano and things like that are available. Cilantro is almost never available, and when it is, it's so expensive. It'll be like a few tiny little sprigs for like 200 pesos, which is $5. So I don't buy that, but you can buy cilantro seeds, and I grow it on my balcony. So it's winter right now, so I've got a whole bunch growing. So, you just, it's part of moving to another country, right? Like, you have to be flexible. You have to know it's not going to be exactly like back home, but I can probably approximate most of the things that I like. I might just have to work at it, right? And so if you come with that attitude of, no, it's okay. It's gonna be an adventure. I'm gonna be so excited when I find jalapenos and I can make some spicy salsa. Then that's the right attitude to have. If you're going to come here and be like, what? They don't even have da da da, then don't come to this country. Like, don't be complaining. Like, just have an attitude of like, let's figure it out, and you're gonna be better off. So that is all I can think of to go over with food costs and food availability. I hope that this helps. If you have any more questions about it, feel free to ask them below and I'll try to answer them or find the answer for you. If you have other ideas for different videos, I am taking requests. Like, if I am asked the same thing over and over again, then I try to make a video about it. I hope that this is helpful. If you're Uruguayan and I said anything wrong, please, please, please correct me down below, because I never want to misrepresent anything. Again, my disclaimer that this is just my experience being here for a couple of years. All right. Make sure you subscribe and do all the things, and I'll see you next time. Bye.